Yeah. It's the Quis. And well, I did it. I have accomplished one of the greatest things to have accomplished in my lifetime. See, I thought that I had experienced one of my happiest moments when I was 9 years old and I went to Disneyland and I ate ice cream all day and rode all of the rides. It was the most amazing day of my life. But that day of happiness and mirth of childhood spent with careless, endless nights. And all right, I saw the Avengers. All right, that was by far one of the greatest days. I mean, I've witnessed childbirth 3 times, and I gotta say, man, right up in there. Marriage, my wedding day, one of the happiest days. It was my bride was beautiful. Avengers 3D, gotta tell you, this movie it took a lifetime of just enjoying, these comic books and imagine what it would be like to see those characters done well. It took a phenomenon that's been around since the 60s and it crafted it into a story that was believable. You really felt like these characters, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, the Hulk, Hawkeye, and Black Widow, were coming together for the first time to fight a threat that individually they wouldn't be able to with all of their might. These were Earth's mightiest heroes, but they wouldn't be able to individually achieve their goal of a victory. So it was just from the beginning. I mean, the opening scene, you see the development of characters like Hawkeye and Black Widow, and then they lead us to the other characters that have been established in the movies: Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, and the Hulk. And you start to see the character development. Mark Ruffalo took over for Ed Norton, and I felt that he really made that character more lovable, more capable to be a part of an ensemble. The pacing of the movie, I thought, was going to be a little too slow. The comedic timing was a little redundant at times, where you felt like the characters were making the same type of jokes, or they were making jokes with the same type of that's what she said type of situations. But there were some really great moments, a lot of interactions. There was a friendship that developed between Tony Stark and Dr. Bruce Banner, Iron Man, the Hulk. And I really was impressed with how Captain America. I'm drawing a blank for the name of the actor that played both Captain America and the Human Torch. Come to me afterwards. I could Google it, but the character of Captain America really rose to the challenge. I felt that as the de facto leader of the team, he really did a great job, especially towards the end, of just bringing them together, knowing that of all these characters, he was a soldier and he was a leader. There was a great action sequence at the end that lasted for about a good 45 minutes. It was amazing. I mean, I'm trying to do justice to this great phenomenon. Marvel Comics created a masterpiece with the idea of the first movie comic crossover. It was just a great experience in terms of seeing these characters that you grew up watching just come to life. And I mean, from Chris Hemsworth's portrayal of Thor to Tony Stark being portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. Scarlett Johansson. There's some great butt shots. She was a very sexy spy. She was more Russian than she was in the Iron Man 2 movie. You really felt like these characters had a contribution to the team. Black Widow was a spy. Hawkeye was this assassin with this ability to just see things, from a perspective that was from far away. And he made this comment earlier, or actually, Agent Coulson, character that was created for the movie. Nick Fury says, "Where's Hawkeye?" And he says, "Up in his perch." And this idea of him to have perspective, and Captain America being a great soldier, and Iron Man being this industrialist, and becoming somebody who in the comic books he evolved to somebody that was more self-absorbed, to somebody who became more selfless and more heroic. And it just was a great, I keep using the word great because there's just no other word to use. I mean, it was just a cool movie, a lot of great points of humor and like a lot of great. Jesus Christ! Sorry, I'm not gonna say great anymore. I think I've said great as many times as a person can say it. But I mean, there's marvelous, stupendous, exciting, amazing. It just was a movie that made you feel like a kid. I felt jealous of the idea of a child being able to just experience this for the first time, not knowing what to expect, and around every corner, seeing the hawk jump through buildings in order to get to the bad guys. I remember there's this one moment I felt like a child because as a portal was opening up from another world and all of these villains, these aliens, invaders poured through the portal. Like, I remember having the thought, how are six Avengers going to stop a horde of technologically advanced aliens? And I doubted that they were enough. I was like, they're gonna have to call some other Avengers, maybe Black Panther or Giant Man or the Wasp. Maybe they need to get on the phone with the Fantastic Four, the X-Men. But they did it. They coordinated their abilities. They worked together, as corny as that sound. And I mean, there were just these cool moments where Captain America and Iron Man used their abilities in tandem, and Thor worked alongside Hawkeye and Iron Man. But before that, there were these epic battles: Thor versus Captain America, Thor versus the Hulk, Black Widow versus Hawkeye. So you got to really see a lot of this tension. It was like they were a family fighting against each other, but when it was time for them to step up and protect the world, they came together. And I mean, it did not allow itself to be corny. There were moments where the movie flirted with being a little hokey and a little cartoonish, but it should have been. I mean, its target demographic are children or childlike people. So it maintained that sense of whimsy, that sense of fun. But then there were tongue-in-cheek moments. There were definitely, jokes that were made that were geared towards the adults, and moments that, were definitely a little high drama. And it was a complete movie. I mean, it's funny because now that Disney owns Marvel, it was like a really kick-ass Disney movie. I know that kind of seems like an oxymoron, but I mean, it had all the elements of like a Cinderella or a Lion King, or a Snow, something that made you feel invested in the lives of these characters. And it just really brought home the idea that you can achieve so much more when you have people alongside you as opposed to by yourself. I mean, Thor is a god or a demigod, but yet he can't be everywhere at once. He's not, God. So as mighty as Thor is, no pun intended, um, Black Widow was able to use her espionage skills to get information from Loki, and Captain America was a natural leader, and Thor or Iron Man had the technology, and he had just everybody brought something to the team. So I give Avengers 2 thumbs up. It was a great movie. I loved it. I wish I could go back and see it again for the first time. It definitely made me feel the same way. Hunger Games, even more so because, Hunger Games, the message of that movie is a sense of sadness. It's like watching a movie based on slavery, whereas Avengers was about heroicism and the idea of overcoming the odds. And then at the end, make sure you haven't already seen it, or if you saw it and you didn't, stay after the credits because there's a nice little indication of where this whole franchise is going. And if you thought the idea of tying 4 movies together was something, if my suspicions are correct, Marvel is going to do something that is so much more ambitious than simply tying 4 movies together. I'm talking about seeing the entire Fantastic Four, X-Men, Daredevil, Ghost Rider, Punisher, all these characters coming together and doing an epic crossover. That's what the end of Avengers, at least for me, that's what I read into, is the idea that they're going to do an epic crossover with all these different characters, from Spider-Man to Prince Neymar. I mean, that would be amazing, and that might not be, for another 5 years off, but just the idea of it is so exciting. And I haven't been excited about movies in a long time. Just X-Men 1. And the idea, they showed the new Batman trailer, and it looks okay, but I'm a Marvel man. So the idea of having my favorite characters I grew up with, the idea that maybe an X-Men movie, a good X-Men movie, which we haven't seen since X-Men 2, re-establish those characters as the premier super team. Right now, the Avengers have that slot. It'll be interesting to see what DC does with the Justice League and whether they'll follow the same formula. I doubt it though. But either way, the movie has ushered in a new era of high quality comic book movies. You think of the original Captain America where he had the rubber ears, or the original Fantastic Four from the 70s. Those movies were hokey and corny, and the idea of a big budget superhero movie just really does justice to, in my opinion, one of the greatest genres, one of the greatest mediums that exists, and that's the comic books. These things, they transported me from a little boy growing up in the hood who, you know, wanted something to do to keep himself out of trouble, to someone who has a degree in English, who is educated, and who prides himself on being aware of things beyond me. Just having an awareness of literature and of sciences and histories that most people don't come in contact to. But because comic books, they challenge you to imagine the unimaginable, and to push yourself and to seek out answers to questions that most people aren't even asking. They unlock within me this desire to just see the world as an adventure, and to take that head on. In this world, if you're an adult, it might not be possible for you to jump into it. But if you have children or you know children, I've said this many times before, give them comic books. I recommend the X-Men comic book because it has the themes of tolerance and embracing that which makes you feel like you're a mutant or an outcast. And you can find a young boy, because comics being a visual medium, they tend to I mean, I'm a guy, I can only speak from a male's perspective, but they tend to um, ignite something. But I'm sure young women can have a feeling experience reading a comic book. But if you have, especially since especially young boys of color coming from impoverished areas who may not love reading, or any race, or any, if you have a child that doesn't like to read, if you want to challenge them, throw some comic books in their bathroom or in their room, or set them up somewhere in the living room, and just give them an opportunity to fall in love with these characters. I was talking to my nana, who she um, I gotta get ready to go. It's the wife with the girls, but she has loved the Avengers and characters like this since she was young, and we're talking going to the '60s and beyond. And when the comic books first came about, she was there appreciating them. So I say you definitely need to get out, go see the Avengers. It was an amazing movie. I loved it. I want to see it again and again and own it. Go see the movie if you can spare the $4. It's a great all around tour de force. It's just one of the best things I've seen. A complete story with a great plot, a great potential for sequels and spinoffs, and it's just everything you want out of your movie going experience. I give Avengers 2 hammers up. This is the Quis movie review. The Avengers. Peace.